Hello, class. This is Mr. Hart, and in this podcast, I want to finish up the fossilization chapter of our textbook. And the last thing we need to cover is just how fossils form. So we have seen a lot of different types of fossils and why they are important, but we want to figure out how they actually are able to form in certain cases. Okay, so we're going to look at five main types of fossilization. The first type is called permineralization. The second is molds and casts, mineral replacement, compression, and preserved remains. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. The first one, permineralization, is probably something you're familiar with, but you probably know it as petrification. They mean the same thing. Permineralization and petrification are the exact same thing. So you may have seen petrified wood before or seen pictures of it. Okay, but this is when mineral deposits form in the empty spaces around remains. Okay, trees are really good at this because they have when a tree dies, for example, it slowly starts to decay, and the inside of the tree starts to fade away, but the outside might still be there. Parts of the, tree, maybe a lot of the stump or the certain branches can be there, and the minerals from the ground will actually come in and kind of fill these spaces that you'll have this open area to expand into. So when it rains, when the water comes up from the soil, all those minerals are allowed to slowly build up until you get this petrification, where all these minerals are permanently stuck inside the wood. Okay, so trees are just one example. Other fossils can form this way, where you get these mineral deposits kind of forming around the leftover material from the organism. Okay, so petrification or permineralization, okay, is the first type we want to know. The second type is what we call molds and casts. Okay, and that's when the original bone or shell dissolves and leaves behind an empty space in the shape of the material. So if you look at this rock over here, okay, we can see that there was some type of shell kind of embedded into this rock that has long since dissolved away. But however, this shell has left its imprint kind of in the rock. The rock is kind of formed around where that shell was before. And so we don't have any of the original material, but we still have the exact shape of that shell. Okay, so we can also get in the other direction. So this one kind of goes into the rock, this one kind of comes out of it. If I remember correctly, this is a cast and this is a mold. Okay, but either one, we can still get that shape from the material after it's long since dissolved away. Okay, so we get these quite often. Okay, lots of molds and casts are common for fossilization. Okay, where we don't have any of the original remains, but we still have that shape and that structure from the organism. Okay. Then there's mineral replacement. Okay, this is very similar to permineralization, but this is comes from molds and casts. So you have some type of mold or cast, and the shell dissolves away or the bone dissolves away, but then it's replaced by a different mineral entirely. So that shell may disappear, but then something may come in and fill its space, like in this example, this is an iron compound. Okay, kind of went in and filled that space where the shell used to be, and now it has kind of structured itself together as this mineral, and it is completely replaced with this mineral, and now you have it almost an exact replica of what the organism used to look like. Okay, so this is not as common for bigger organisms. Okay, usually for very small things like bones and shells, but you can get the entire material to be replaced by some type of mineral. Okay, so this one's kind of rare, but it's very cool because you have an exact replica in some other form, okay, with some other material like an iron compound or some other mineral. Okay, and then there are compression or imprints. Okay, this is a common one for like fish and leaves and things like that. Okay, this is when remains are compressed by high pressure, leaving behind a dark imprint. So this is kind of the skeletal structure of fish. You see this a lot with plants because what will happen is you'll have a landslide occur or some type of rock will fall and it will crush an organism underneath it. And the remains of that organism kind of get embedded into the rock. And so it leaves behind this imprint. Again, none of the original material is still there, okay, but we still have a kind of a 2D image of what it looked like. Okay, it kind of gets compressed underneath the rock and it leaves that shape, that image on the rock itself. Okay, so very common for plants and fish. And again, that's usually caused by some type of landslide. Okay? And then the last one that we want to know is called preserved remains. Okay, this is when the remains of an entire animal are preserved in the substance. Okay, this is very rare, but it can happen. So over here, this is a picture of what we call amber. And amber is a kind of a, you can think of it as old tree sap, okay? Petrified tree sap almost is a way to think about it. But this little bug in here, he got trapped in this amber, and his entire body, his entire remains are preserved within this amber, okay? And so he may have flown into a tree and got stuck in some tree sap, and that tree sap slowly poured over him, and now his remains are completely preserved, okay, in that amber. So tree sap's one way. Tree sap and amber is one way we can get preserved remains. There's other materials like ice. Ice can preserve remains entirely. They've found like a baby mammoth, for example, completely preserved in ice. Tar can also preserve animals entirely. The La Brea tar pits are famous for preserving animal remains. Okay, so not a whole lot of things can do it, mostly just those three, amber, ice, and tar. But it is something that can happen, but then again, it's very rare. Okay, so that's it for the chapter. I know that's kind of a short video, but that's all we need to know to finish up is just these different types of fossilization. So permanentization or petrification, molds and casts, mineral replacement, compression, and preserved remains. Okay, so hopefully that all made sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.